$1.87. That was all. She had put it aside 1 cent and then another, and then another. In her careful buying of meat and other food, Taylor counted it 3 times. $1.87, and the next day would be Christmas. There was nothing to do but fall on the bed and cry. So Tella did it, while the lady of the home is slowly growing quieter. We can look at the home. Furnished rooms and at a cost of $8 a week. There is little more to say about it. In the hall below was a letter box too small to hold a letter. There was an electric bell, but it could not make a sound. Also, there was a name beside the door. Mr. James Dillingham Young. When the name was placed there, Mr. James Dillingham Young was being paid $30 a week. Now when he was being paid only $20 a week, the name seemed too wrong and important. It should perhaps have been Mr. James D. Young. But when Mr. James Dillingham Young entered the furnished rooms, his name became very short indeed. Mr. James Dillingham Young put her arms warmly about him and called him Jim. You have already met her. She is Stella. Stella finished her crying and cleaned the marks of it from her face. She stood by the window and looked out with no interest. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1 with which to buy Jim a gift. She had put aside as much as she could for months, with this result. $20 a week is not much. Everything had cost more than she had expected. It always happened like that. Only $1 to buy a gift for Jim. Her Jim. She had many happy hours planning something nice for him. Something nearly good enough. Something almost worth the honor of belonging to Jim. There was a looking glass between the windows of the room. Perhaps you have seen the kind of looking glass that is placed in $8 furnished rooms. It was very narrow. A person could see only a little of himself at a time. However, if he was very thin and moved very quickly, he might be able to get a good view of himself. Stella, being quite thin, had mastered this art. Suddenly she turned from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brightly, but her face had lost its color quickly. She pulled down her hair and let it fall to its complete length. The James Dillingham Youngs were very proud of two things which they owned. One thing was Jim's gold watch. It has once belonged to his father, and long ago it had belonged to his father's father. The other thing was Stella's hair.